Welcome to the show. This is the Willpower Podcast, hosted by Will Holdren. Each week, we sit down with the brightest entrepreneurial minds and uncover the real secrets behind their success. And if you want every episode in one place, plus exclusive insights and updates, head to willpowerpodcast.org and join the email list. If you're ready to take that next step and unlock your next breakthrough, you're in the right place. Now, let's get to the show.
How we doing, everyone? My name is Will Holdren. I am the host of the Willpower Podcast. Today we're joined by our co-host, the legendary Rick Siegel, and our featured guest today is Gary Pinkerton, and we are extremely honored to have him on here today. And Gary is a wealth strategist. He's a veteran. He's a best-selling author and entrepreneur at heart. He's passionate about promoting business-oriented families, helping reduce taxes, and building a legacy. And on top of that, he is a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, and he commanded the nuclear attack submarine, the USS TUCSON. And right now, he's currently living in Florida. So with that being said, it's an absolute honor to have you on here today. You are the first person we're having on this podcast that did command a nuclear submarine. So that's pretty cool. With that being said, awesome. Gary, first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I deeply appreciate it. It's my honor, and I can't look forward to it. And what better time to do it than recording it right before the 250th anniversary of our country?
That's right.
Exactly.
Where are you in Florida, Gary? What town?
Cape Coral, the Fort Myers Gulf Coast, Gulf of America coast.
I'm on the watch it. I'm on the Treasure Coast in Vero.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of Florida being covered on here.
Yeah.
But Gary, starting out, I want to ask you a question we ask all of our guests, which is one: what makes you what makes you want to take time in your busy day to hop on podcasts like these to go out there and share your story?
Oh gosh, well, I am motivated, as you read in kind of the intro there. I'm motivated in helping individuals and their families obtain agency or grow the agency that they already have. And agency is not a word that we use in a positive way much anymore in the 21st century. I had one longtime listener and client who said, I can't stand the word I can't stand the fact that you use that word agency. All I can think of is CIA and NSA. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But the word agency on a personal level means that you have the ability to control your own future. You have the resources, you have the knowledge. And if, perfect time to talk about this again on the celebration of the 250th this weekend, is that our founding fathers created a country with a simple concept. Rights are given to you by God. And so government can't take those away. And the government's job is to protect you and the things that you create so that you can prosper, right? And as long as people at the family level think that and have the ability to do that, then the government will go to work every day, continuing to work for the people, not figuring out how to make the people work for them and give them everything, right? So it's fundamental in maintaining our country. So I've always been kind of a patriotic guy. I can definitely remember riding my bicycle, red, white, and blue all over it with all these crazy streamers and stuff during the bicentennial. And, I just really kind of got inspired there, I guess. And so I've always been very patriotic. And I served 30 years in the military. And I started to realize, though, that protecting America from the outside is not the massive threat. The big threat is protecting America from the inside and us forgetting what this whole thing was built for. So I'm, as you can tell, super inspired to be experiencing this upcoming, all of 2026 and everything that it brings. So it does not come without challenge. My recent podcast, actually, I talked about, I read Calvin Coolidge's speech during the 150th celebration 100 years ago. And some of the challenges there were eerily familiar. And I think they will always be here. And so I want to help America hold on to what we have. And that starts from having, door to door, every family understands and has the ability to keep it that way.
Yeah. So you're in the military for 30 years. So first and foremost, thank you so much for your service. And again, celebrating 250 years of America is amazing. Kind of walk me through your journey though in the Navy. Sure. Did you always want to be kind of in the Navy and eventually commanding a nuclear submarine? Was that kind of always the end goal, or how did you get to that position?
Gosh, I wish I was that advanced planning and thoughtful. What happened was 1987, if you go back to like 1984, I'm a freshman in high school, and Jimmy Carter, brainy ideas, great gentleman. I've met the guy, talked to him at length at the Naval Academy. Wonderful individual. He had some really bad Democrat ideas, though, and his ideas resulted in tremendous high inflation in the late 70s, early 80s. Ronald Reagan comes in. Fed Chair Paul Volcker says, sir, what I need to do is raise interest rates to stop the inflation. And Reagan gave him the keys, and man, did he do it. And so here we are on this dairy farm, and there's 18% interest rate loans on our farm. And every 3 months or so, the bankers are showing up saying, listen, we need to refinance, pull out the equity. And eventually that falls apart. And so my father's health has failed. I'm running a farm in high school. And well, not a farm anymore. I'm running all these little side businesses, sawmill, and all the stuff that we could do to put food on the table. My mom gets a job nearing the end of high school. My sister and I are able to, they are like, hey, listen, go live your lives. We'll be fine. And we had no money. And so I got accepted to the University of Illinois, Air Force Academy, and the Naval Academy. And I really didn't know the difference between the Air Force Academy and the Naval Academy. And I didn't know really anything about the military, even though my father had served in World War II. He never really talked about it. So I learned as much as I could back before the internet, and I asked my guidance counselor. And essentially, I chose the Naval Academy because it was further from Illinois. And my real goal was to not be poor and not end up working at a grocery store in Illinois. And so that was as advanced as my 17-year-old brain had. I went to the Naval Academy, worked my tail off. I was valedictorian in my small little town in Murfreesboro. Loved the town, loved the people. I did work hard. But when I got to Naval Academy and there were 1,200 valedictorians, I was incredibly overwhelmed. And I didn't have a lot of weekends. I was on academic probation most of the time, but somehow hard work got me through it. And I got the opportunity to interview for for nuclear submarines. And at the time, well, I think it's still true. If you interview and get accepted, you're in. So I was wondering, should I get on the bus to go interview or not? I wanted to actually be a Marine officer. So I had the submarine or Marine, and they seem like polar opposites. But really, I think what was drawing me was small unit cohesion of a high camaraderie, people who think that they're elite and really want to strive to achieve that level of reputation. And so that's why I got on the bus. And I went and met the admiral, and I answered some questions, took a test, and he was like, congratulations, you're in. It's not like we've offered you a job. Again, it is, you're in. So, I was a submarine. And hard again, you start the next thing and it's hard. And then you get qualified as a basic submarine officer, which takes about a year, learning tremendous stuff like a fire hose in your face. And then you get done with that and they're like, congratulations, here's your little warfare pin. Here's the next qualification, to be a department head, and then a commanding officer, right? And so like it never stops. And so you get on this train, and unless you want to really get bumped up by getting thrown off the train, you just stay on, And somewhere along the way, I became incredibly patriotic, and I really did want to command one of those submarines because when I was an executive officer, I was really questioning whether I should even be there or not, because becoming an executive officer, they totally changed our pipeline. You had to qualify to become in command before you even were halfway there, which was kind of crazy, but it was hard and people were failing. And I was kind of disillusioned. And then my commanding officer of my submarine, the USS Hartford, Frank Catani, and the guy was just a huge guy, super tall, weightlifter, big, deep voice. The crew loved him, and he let me run the entire show because I'd been through that commanding officer qualification thing earlier, and I loved it. And so I then was hooked. And so for the next 5 or 6 years, I was in heaven, loved having my own submarine, and did incredible things on the Tucson out in the Pacific. It was awesome. Then I had this awakening, lost half my family's financial wealth in the Great Recession, paying no attention, didn't even have internet in the Pacific. And I knew I needed to change some stuff. And I wanted to start working on helping families, strengthen the family unit and the businesses and that kind of stuff. And so I spent 3 years at the Pentagon and 3 years at the Naval Academy, kind of finishing up my career. Incredible experiences. Nothing like command, though. If they'd let me go back and command again, I might have stayed. So that's kind of how I got there. It was all a progression. I did not have this big vision when I was in high school for sure.
So what led you to your current career, and
Yeah.
what led you to Florida?
Yeah, well, I guess they're all kind of similar, but I'm up in New Jersey. So I'm commanding my submarine out in the Pacific Ocean. I got email for the first time in like 3 weeks. And my wife says, "Hey, surprise, we live in New Jersey." I thought we were in Virginia. And if I had picked any state on the map, it wouldn't have been New Jersey. But she wanted to become a nurse, and they had a great nursing advanced program there. So she went there, and we lived there. We ended up living there for another 10 years as I commuted in Annapolis and to the Pentagon to finish up my career. But really, what got me on shifting out of the military was twofold. One, I had this chip on my shoulder when I was a kid that my father would hire all my friends from high school to come over, and he would pay them hourly, which mattered a lot in high school. He would pay them to pick up hay. Yet I'm doing the whole thing before they show up and after they left from their, they show up after football practice, which I couldn't go to. So I had this big chip on my shoulder, like this stuff is not fair. And so I didn't want to be poor. And I kind of didn't enjoy the farm life. But then I started to realize as my brain matured and I became this adult and a parent that I have these two young boys and they're getting nothing of what I got as a kid. I can remember all these amazing things I did with my father. He spent all this time around me just by virtue of how we lived, but also because he really wanted to teach. And I was spending no time around my boys. I was gone for 6 months at a time. And they were kind of starting to act out. And so I felt like, hey, I'm doing this wrong. I'm seeking monetary wealth when what I really want is to help my boys be successful and get a leg up like I did. So I wanted to reverse that. But the big watershed thing that caused all of this was what I mentioned before, was that I felt like when I was starting command, I had enough money to pull off this leaving after 20 years and doing real estate or just being around my boys. And I lost half of it. And no one called or emailed or texted or stopped by and talked to my wife, none of that. And so I realized that the typical financial advice out there was broken. And I wasn't in control at all of whether my money went up or down. It was all in the markets. It was all in a retirement account. And no one was paying any attention, me or my advisors. So I just knew I needed to change that. I threw it all down into businesses and real estate and just taught myself financially. And I realized it's not hard. And I realized that a lot of other Americans need it too. So leaving the military came before I want to be a financial strategist. I was going to do real estate. And then I realized that the real need and what really interests me is helping other families learn what I've learned and move forward from there. Then we're up in New Jersey. Everything's going great. I'm running my business. 2020 comes along, and the stupid actions we were taking in New Jersey were just driving me nuts. People telling me when I could and couldn't leave my house and all that kind of stuff that everybody is very familiar with that happened back then. And the mayor or the governor, Governor Murphy, stood in front of the television one too many times and said, "If you don't like what I'm doing, you can leave." And I finally went to my wife and I'm like, "Honey, I know I promised our youngest that he'd get through high school, but this guy's talking to me." And so we went to Florida. And so that's how we ended up down here.
Gotcha.
So how did you start your financial career? You mentioned real estate. Was that the first thing you were doing?
So I was going to just simply pull the money from the markets down into real estate just to stabilize things and use that passive cash flow to not go get a W-2 job after the military. What happened was I was just learning. I went to Robert Kiyosaki conferences or whatever, those 3-day kind of events and read everything I could get my hands on. I went to an amazing 10-day cruise with the real estate guys and Kiyosaki and a bunch of others. And so I was just studying. And I realized that there was a way to more efficiently fund the purchase of all of these things. So instead of purchasing directly with cash that used to be in the markets, I put the money into a concept that's more popular now, known as family banking or infinite banking, and then borrowed against my policies to do that. So I dramatically increased the death benefit and I got a much higher return. And then I didn't pay this opportunity cost for when I took money that was earning in a bank account and put it into the real estate. It's no longer earning, right? Like the real estate's performing, but my money stopped earning that was in an account. And so doing it in a policy, borrowing against the policy, a lot more efficient. So I do that in my own life. I'm trying to convince my wife that no kidding, it's okay. I'll just stay at home all day and take care of the kids. And she's like, I think you need a good job. So I'm looking at like, what do I want to do in life? And I realized that the thing that really inspires me is to help other families take control of their financial future like I was. And this infinite banking thing had a big part of that. And so I became licensed to do that part with the insurance side. I still do a lot of that with clients, but it has grown and grown and grown from there such that we can, our team now manages all aspects of people's financial lives, as well as helping them with things like, disability and trusts and LLCs and things like that. So it's holistic financial strategy for families and business owners. I really have gotten inspired about business owners. And that's the whole entrepreneurship side of things, right? So the reason I like business ownership is because I've also been on this journey with my creator and learning more. We don't need to go into this story because my answers are really too long here, I think. But I grew up Catholic. I went to a Catholic grade school. I shunned the idea of going to church for a long time. But I've had these experiences in life where I realized there is a greater power and he's looking out for me. And so I've realized that we're on this planet for a purpose, and it's our job. It's the expectation that we share that with other people. And you can share it one-on-one, which is beautiful, or you can share it at scale, which means you have this business and you share your talents with people. So I want to help families gain and grow their agency and teach that to the next generations, because that protects America. But what truly makes us be the greatest place on the planet is all the businesses and the gross national product. And that should come from business owners who understand how to do it efficiently. And so I've become a certified exit planning advisor. So I help business owners understand and take action so that they're operating at best in class, whatever their industry is.
How did you build your business? How did you get your clients? I mean, you haven't done it for all that many years, and
No, it's been 15. It's crazy to think that, or it's been 12. Crazy to think that. But the way I did it was, first I became a client of a company called Paradigm Life, which is out in Salt Lake City, Utah. And my advisor is the owner and the CEO of that company. And there were like two people working with him. And I convinced him that I would like to become one of those people, but I'm going to work remotely from the East Coast. And so they had an agreement with Palm Beach Newsletter, Agora Financial, kind of a retirement magazine. And so we were getting leads from that organization. But predominantly, and we can organically create them. We have a sales development team kind of. But primarily what I've been most successful with is going to places and meeting people and telling my story to people who are like me. So on my own podcast, on other people's podcasts. And so I'm very grateful for this. But also going to real estate conferences, business conferences, and just meeting people where they are. And again, trying to meet people who are like me. Like I understand why people would get into real estate and business. It's what I've been doing. So try to meet people like that.
And no, did you mention that you were helping them sell their businesses?
So I have that certification. And I'm very new at that. I got certified in November. I went to the annual conference a couple of months ago, and I don't exactly know where I'm going to fit and how active my role is going to be there. The typical financial advisor role is we go in and we help the family figure out what does it look like after you're done with this business, right? Because most people crash, and like 76% of business owners regret selling within the first year. And there's a few reasons for that. But one of them is they don't have a sense of purpose. They haven't even thought about what am I going to do when I don't have this anymore. But the other big one is like they didn't set themselves up financially for it. And so I help clients be able to do that, help them deal with and optimize that liquidity that comes in. But then I typically will partner with a value advisor, they call it. And this guy is somebody who's been running big businesses. He's taken one to sale already, or maybe even to public. He understands what an ESOP is, if that gets involved. And so I work side by side with him, one of us quarterbacking, it doesn't really matter who, so that we can add, we can get the guy's company to a place where it's valuable to people who want to buy, and then figure out how am I going to sell? Is it private sale? Is it private equity? Is it ESOP? So you got to figure out that path And this is a journey that if it's done right, takes 3 to 5 years, right? It's not just, I'm tired of going to work, let's sell it. I mean, you can do that, but that's called a fire sale. And we all know what that looks like in real estate.
Right. I will say that's
And most of these families, they are real estate. Their business or wealth is tied up in real estate. Is that?
Well, a lot of my current families, the 1,000 families that I work with, are because I went specifically trying to attract individuals like that or families like that. But there's
Are
this.
they local to you, or are they
No, nationwide?
More
Nationwide.
nationwide.
Yep. Yep. I do most of it over Zoom like this, or just in person when we travel to different areas.
And are they able to, with your help, find buyers for their businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously it cycles with the economy, but yeah, absolutely. Because
Right.
anybody whose business is operating best in class is going to be desirable by everybody, right?
You are helping them become best in class.
Right. Right.
What's the typical size transaction that you're dealing with?
So I'm looking at small to medium-sized companies right now because I want to work closely with the family. And they're also those businesses that have the greatest need because most of those business owners don't even know that there are people out there to help them do this. And that there's a very well organized network to be able to do that kind of thing. So just informing them that this is there. And definitely they don't know that they should start thinking about it 3 to 5 years out. And the beautiful result is not selling at all. So when you get something that's operating best in class, it means it doesn't depend on the owner. It has great cash flow. They have a diversified client base. So they're not waking up every night wondering if that one client, the government or whoever it is going to, drop them. Right. And so they have a well-oiled machine, clients that love to work there. I mean, employees that love to work there. So if you're best in class, you're operating optimal in all those areas. And then the owner says, I actually can't find anything that I would do after this that pays me like this, that gives me the quality of life. I don't actually want to sell. And that's even better because now they're this bastion of, they're a beacon of example to other business owners to go do that for their family.
Tell me also, is there a sense for these owners that they have family that they want to bring up into the business?
Yeah, many do. And to me, that's a tremendous thing. And typically it takes a lot of education, not just on how the business operates, but it's also understanding, the financial side and making sure we understand what the person wants, what the child wants. But again, if mom and dad are having fun going to work in their own business and they see the results of that, many of them want it. When the parent is, running a janitorial service because they were a janitor before and somehow they just, the other boss died and they took over and they never really had the passion there, that's probably not something the kids are going to want to take, even though I think janitorial businesses are great. I didn't mean to pick on that one.
No, we forgive you that. But these real estate operations, are they brokerage? Are they property owners? What does the typical business look like?
Yeah. So when we go through the process with clients and we educate them on our approach to financial certainty or getting to your financial targets with certainty, that comes from understanding that, we talk about 4 different tiers as if you're building this large family Egyptian pyramid or something. And the bottom level of certainty is liquidity. It's guaranteed savings money. And that is, its only important quality is that you can't lose it. And it's always liquid when you need it, which is essential for business owners and real estate investors. And then above that are things that you directly control and own. So real estate businesses. And the reason that is a stable, lower kind of foundational layer as well on the investment side is because you're so involved with it that you know what's going on and you get to control your destiny like I did on my submarine. And then up from there is kind of a passive syndication or passive investor or maybe even a private lending kind of thing where you're handing money to other people for them to do whatever they're going to do with it. That brings additional risk, which is the other people, and maybe they don't know what they're doing or paying attention, et cetera. So you're farther removed from your money. And then you get up to the speculative area. And this is where the financial advisor, the Wall Street guys would take exception to this, but everything from my mindset And what I've learned in tens of thousands of hours with thousands of clients is that if you are so far removed, like you gave your money to an advisor who put it into a mutual fund, who gave it to a bunch of companies who did something with it, when you're operating that remote from your money, you're speculating, you're gambling because you don't control any of it. And so that's the lesson I learned. I pulled it all from there down into directly owned assets. And so to answer your question now, finally, I try to make sure that there's a mixture, but at least there is a strong component of it that is something they directly own. A lot of people don't want to personally deal with tenants and toilets in their own hometown, but there's a whole cottage industry, not even cottage, it's a big industry of people and property management companies and builders and rehabbers that will help people own things remotely. I own 30 properties. I've owned 50 or more. And I was not in the same locality of most of them.
That's an interesting diagram on that. You're talking about the lower level too, where it's kind of just better returns on just straight up cash that you're going to have to kind of fill some business needs. So I'm curious, from your perspective, are you advising people to just not be in the stock market whatsoever because of what you're talking about? No control. Okay.
No. But we do say, similar to building that hierarchy, we call it hierarchy of wealth, or building that pyramid, there's going to be a lot fewer bricks up there at the top than there are down there in that very large, wide foundation. So have a larger percentage of your financial wealth in a place where it's safe, liquid, and guaranteed to always be there, because it has to be used to support those other layers, right? So maybe 5 or 10% in truly speculative things. Now, because of my personal experience, I call most of the markets speculative, but our company doesn't. They would say that index mutual funds are probably the next level down, which we can say 20%. So in the markets, potentially you could have 25% of your net worth, but it's not 90% like most Americans that have most of their net worth either in their house or in their retirement account.
So for those listening, people listening that do have just a ton of cash that you're talking about in retirement accounts where it's all just being invested, I mean, what's your typical recommendation to those types of people? Is it pulling it out and reinvesting it into real estate stuff, or?
Well, that's kind of that would be malpractice on my side to just say all the people who are in this situation do this, because it gets very personal very quickly. And that's the problem with the financial services world. We're trying to solve that problem at our company. And I think we're making a big, big move in that direction. And that is making software or a client portal that we provide to everyone we work with that enables them to put their situation in there, their financial statement, if you will, with a little bit more detail. And then it will point out to them what the vulnerabilities are. And it will tell you how to get to the next level. We talk about these 4 different dimensions as you go through, I'll call it a successful life. Like you're not in the about to go bankrupt stereo, but you start off in certainty, and then you go to financial vitality, which means we're actually growing, not just sure that we're going to not get, that we're going to have a home next month. And instead it's now we're growing, and we have a little bit of passive stuff. And then we get into this financial independence, where our passive income will cover our needs, our expenses. We don't have to work anymore, but most of them continue doing it anyway because they liked what they started. And then you get to financial freedom if you want to go that far. And so as you go through there, what things are holding us back from getting to the next level? Where are the vulnerabilities that might blindside us? And so I put somebody's picture in there, and then I say, you know what? You are really taking risks on the fact that you have no insurance on the one breadwinner for a family of 5, right? And so so why don't we spend a few $100s a year and put some term insurance in place? Unlike a lot of the other infinite banking guys, we don't just tell you everything needs to go there. Don't ask questions. Like, that is definitely not it. There's a role for that. It's probably the most efficient place you can store your family's emergency fund or money you're going to put into a business in the future. But it's not the end all be all, right? So it gets personalized. We're hopefully going to take some of the load of that off of us. Otherwise, I'll never be able to work with more than 1,000 families. But to take this thing, to get it to spread across, get a 10% kind of momentum out of it across the country, there needs to be some like personal do-it-yourself kind of stuff. And I think that this thing that's launching next week, version 3 of it, I think will get us there.
Tell us about version 3.
So what we started with 2 years ago was basically a financial statement. And then we added that hierarchy of wealth to it. So when you put your information in, and so for those who haven't done business or real estate to the level where you had to a banker asked you for your financial statement, you may not even know what that is. I mean, it's essentially, it's a balance sheet. So it's got your assets and your liabilities. I got a home, I got a mortgage against it. I got a car, I got a loan on it, right? And then I got a bank account. And so it's your assets and liabilities, right? Then there's also an income statement. So how much money do you make? How much expenses do you have? And how much cash do you have currently sitting around liquid? So the income statement, the balance sheet, that's your financial statement. Well, it did that initially. And then we added a hierarchy of wealth to it. And that pointed out a lot of issues. We also add what's called protection. So protection is essentially, yeah, you have this $300,000 income right now, but is it protected? If you're a surgeon and you lose your hands, or you get your hand damaged in a doorknob somewhere, or in a door, closing the door on it, you lose $300,000 a year. Is that compensated, right? So there's a protection side to it. So we added that. That was kind of version 2. And then version 3 implements all that, and it brings 2 really important things. It brings that positioning of where you are in your journey between those 4 dimensions. You're in vitality. I know you want to get to financial independence, but here's what's holding you back from getting from vitality to independence. You need to do these things. And so the second thing that it does is it gives you this report, gap analysis report, that says you need to do this, this, and this as the most important things to do today. Because most clients come to you and say, I want to be able to visit my grandkids and travel to Europe 3 times a year, 10 years from now. How do I get there? Right? And the answer is do these 3 things, and then we get to here, and then you will be on your journey to do that.
Are you directing the investments opportunities? Are you buying insurance, or how does that work?
So we don't offer alternative investments. That is the Wild West. So when I say alternative investments, I mean, I don't say, here, call my friend Sam, and Sam has a rental property that you can buy from him, and I'll get compensated from it. The reason is because it's the Wild West. I have lost my shirt in things like syndications and lending money to other people, even buying properties that were supposedly turnkey and ready to use, right? So, it's just not the role I want to be in, to provide those downstream products. Some other people do it that way, but it's risky, and I'm not involved in it enough to make sure the quality is there. I'll lose the reputation with my client if I do that. So I can tell people who I invest with, I can introduce them to 3 people. They can choose one if they are interested in that, but I don't get compensated in any way for that. When you get above that, up to the kind of more traditional market assets, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, we have the ability to manage those assets. And frankly, we have quite a few clients who take us up on that, because they don't want to keep having this pull and push where they go to their Wall Street financial advisor and he says, why do you have that real estate stuff? That's risky, or I can't believe he says you want to have so much whole life insurance. Whole life insurance is expensive. Buy term insurance, right? Like, there's not this holistic view, and they definitely don't have the dimensions factored into things. So we can do all of the conventional stuff, the market assets, but when it comes to buy this house in Memphis, Tennessee, I will give them a few cities to think about. I'll give them some articles to look at. But people really, if they're going to be in direct control, it's funny. We always try to find this back door. Like, I like the idea of directly controlling, owning some short-term rental and a long-term rental, maybe in a place that I'd like to go visit. Well, how do I turn that into mailbox money? You've just short-circuited back to where you tried to get from. Because if it's mailbox money and you're not making decisions, and you have this person you can always count on and it's always going to go right, theoretically, then you've not exerted the level of due diligence and actual thought process and work to make it successful. You've just jumped back into a passive. You might as well be in a mutual fund.
Do you end up having to diligence for your clients some particular investments, or you just give them the tools to be able to do that for themselves?
So we have a way to do a fee for service, but I could meet with them quarterly and update them, and maybe fill a role like that, like actually give them an opinion paper back. I have done it less formally because I've never really had anyone request that yet, but we have the capability to do that. And so they will send me an email, or they'll send me a pro forma, and they'll say, hey, what do you think? And what I try to do is say, hey, your financial statement, or your WealthView 360, we call it, portal has not been updated in 6 months. So it's kind of like going to a doctor and having 6 months old blood work. and writing a prescription for that. That's called malpractice, right? So I need to make sure that the blood work's up to date. And so I'll say, please update your financial statement. I will, or your portal. I will take a look at this and kind of evaluate it. And I will give you an answer, my opinion, based on what your system looks like. So I can personalize it, right? Just because their friend had good luck on some medication that was prescribed by their doctor, I don't want to prescribe that to them because they may have $50,000 of credit card debt at 21%. That's not a time to go buy real estate and put the money there instead.
You know, a lot of entrepreneurs that I know of and that we have worked with in the past as well, they have issues when they have an insurance advisor that just helps out with insurance, someone that just helps out with estate planning, just a CPA, and there's so many different pieces to their puzzles, and not everyone knows the whole pie, which makes it extremely difficult when someone says, let's get some insurance in your estate, but that's really going to hammer your estate taxes, right? So just kill it. So from what you guys are doing, how do you guys kind of bridge that gap? And do you guys kind of play a quarterback role and kind of help direct traffic for the CPA and all these other parties that are part of these entrepreneurs' financial team?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I would say that the industry has two ways of solving that, but majority of them don't pick any of those ways. And they just kind of fight and try to win over, like, you know, they're going to listen to my advice, not the other guy's advice. The two ways to solve it are you either bring them internally and you do all things. We have resisted that because our experience has been when you're jack of all trades, you're master of none. And so we connect people with another CPA if that's necessary. What I try to do personally is meet with their other advisors. I would like to be in the quarterback role, and because we're set up to be holistic in our approach. I'll be the expert on the life insurance and on maybe legacies or LLCs or something like that, but I'm not going to sell any of them. And I'm definitely not the accounting expert, right? That somebody who's licensed CPA needs to sign that thing. So we have not brought those in house. We make connections, referrals that we don't get paid for again, and simply let them choose between those different individuals. But that is why we started managing money, because the one industry group that refuses to play in the sandbox with others are the financial services guys, because they are compensated mostly. I mean, not all, some are fee for service. They just give opinions. But majority of them are compensated by how much money they're managing. And so the idea of life insurance is not a good idea to them. Annuities are not a good idea to them. There's a reason why that guy says, I hate annuities and you should too, because he's managing money. And if you put the money in an annuity, it's off his table for the rest of his life. Right. And so the compensation or the incentivization for financial services Wall Street guys is in conflict with everybody else in the industry. And so they're a hated real estate guy if you're going to go put $100,000 in his deal. Right. So we just said, okay, all of our clients keep coming back with this bad experience of their advisors saying different things. And they kept asking, can you manage our money? So we do. Yeah. We're not on there. We don't have stock traders on the Wall Street floor. We're doing mutual funds, ETFs, target date type kind, maybe. But mainly it's just things that are indexed to the S&P. And I mean, it's kind of first level stuff beyond you doing it yourself.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Well, Gary, with that being said, really appreciate you jumping on here, sharing a lot of really great information. Before we jump off, I got a few more questions for you. One, totally random question. Obviously, you were in the Navy for a ton. You were in the Pentagon. You work with a lot of higher ups, a lot of officials. From your perspective, what's your main concern with like America, like going forward? Like if you could just narrow that down. Yeah.
Main concern with America.
Yeah.
It's communism.
Yeah.
I feel like it's McCarthy in the 1950s, and I just answered, that. But Margaret Thatcher said it the best. She said the problem with socialism or communism is that, I think she said socialism, is that eventually you run out of other people's money to hand out. But we forget that from time to time. And it seems like it has a 30 to 50 year cycle. If you had asked me 3 years ago, what is the chance that a flat out communist would win mayor in New York City, and 4 people going to Congress would also win right after that, right? Like that would pick up momentum in America. I would have said that's nuts. Like we have our problems, but not that. So socialism, communism, the idea, forgetting, we have short memories in America because we have so many amazing, successful things that happen from, and we're not as old as China, right? So people forget. And so from time to time, we forget how handing away free stuff causes all the producing people to stop producing. My number one favorite book is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And in there's a place called, John Galt, the main character, and she is trying to tell people, she came from Russia in the mid 1900s, and her whole goal in life was to teach Americans why not to go down that path. Because at the time we were going down that path, and we did it back when Calvin Coolidge was giving his speech 100 years ago. It was happening there. It's happening now. So about every 50 years at least, we take this next stab at it's different this time, and maybe socialism will work, right? And so how far we go down that path before we change, I am completely confident America will revert back from that, or will reverse back from that. How much pain do we go through before that happens? Well, probably more than we should. But that's the thing. And that's why my podcast is called Gary's Gulch, because it's a hat tip to Ayn Rand and her intention to give everybody agency and have them understand why going down that path's bad.
Gotcha. Good answer. And my last question then, for people that are listening and want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So I try to make it as simple as possible. It's my name. So it's GaryPinkerton.com. So Gary@GaryPinkerton.com. Really easy. You'll find me on email there. You can find out everything about me on that website, GaryPinkerton.com. You can find my podcast, Gary's Gulch. And I've been doing it for 6 years now. So there's, 300 episodes or so. Some of them, sometimes I get on a soapbox, but they will at a minimum be entertaining.
Yeah. All right, guys, there you have it. Go check them out. Gary Pinkerton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Will and Rick. It's a pleasure.
Bye, Gary.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow the show so you never miss a new release. And if you want all episodes in one place, plus exclusive insights and updates, head over to willpowerpodcast.org and join the email list. Lastly, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, take a quick second to leave a rating. It helps the show grow more than you know. We'll see you in the next one.